Hey guys, this is an introduction video to our 9v9. So just as an introduction, the formation is known as a 4-3-1 or a 1-4-3-1. You have our keeper here, and then we have two center backs. We then have two fullbacks. So the back line is really considered these four. We have a defensive center midfielder. We have two offensive center midfielders and a striker. This video in particular is to discuss how we attack in our defensive third of the field. So how, in essence, do we build out of the back? How do we get the ball from our keeper through the midfield, and ultimately, how do we get goal scoring opportunities? So this is our starting spots from our goal kicks. And I want you to first recognize that the center backs are at the edge of the 18-yard box. And depending on how we're pressed, and I'll be adding defenders here in a minute, we may have to get deeper. You may actually even have to get a little bit wider. It just depends on the press that we're up against. It might be a high press, meaning there's a lot of guys up here, or it might be more of a lower press where they're only pressing with one, or we might actually play teams, and we have played teams in the past that don't even press us until we get, almost into our middle third of the field. But this, for the most part, is how we're going to be set up, where the fullbacks are at the edge of the 18-yard box. The defensive center midfielder will be set up right here along the arch, and maybe slightly to the left or the right, depending on how the press is orientated. But in general, this is where they're going to want to be. Our fullbacks, in particular, need to be as wide as possible. And again, depending on how the press is set up, they might have to be deeper, they might have to be further up the field. It's just a matter of getting into the right space and being prepared. In fact, we don't mind them even sitting a little bit higher up, just knowing that they're going to have to come down and support once the build begins. Our attacking center midfielders, it's really important that at the start of the build out, that they remain centrally, that they don't crowd the fullbacks space out wide. Now, there will be triggers for when they will have to get out wide, but for the most part, especially when we start building, we want them to be central. And then our striker, the most important thing is that they are providing depth here, that they are actually giving us, they're stretching the field. So in essence, this number 9 here may actually need to be higher up the field. Again, it just depends a little bit on how they're set up, but at minimum, we want them around the center circle or midfield. They may not even need to be pushed higher up, but what we don't want is a striker to come down and occupy space and be here where the offensive center midfielders are occupying. So as the ball starts, most of the time, the ball is going to be going to one of our center backs on our build out. Now, it might go to the 6 if sometimes they're pressing us with 2 forwards or something like that, and there's a lot of room in the middle of the field. But for the most part, the ball is going to either go to the left or right full center back. You'll notice that as the ball's coming, we're already starting getting movement on the other side. So the center back cinching in, the fullback on this side is cinching in, and what you'll see here is the fullback on his side is coming down, providing depth to be an option. Now, once the center back gets the ball, they're going to take their space. So when the center back has space in front of them, they're going to take it until engaged by one of the defenders. And again, this will be easier to see when I add defenders, but I really wanted to show this without defenders first, so everyone gets an idea. The number 2 has got to be an option out wide, and especially if they're getting pressed here, is going to have to come down. The 6 doesn't have to move around a lot, and this is something that can happen to 6s is they just keep going with the play, when oftentimes if they just stay here, space will be wide open and there'll be an option. You can see here that our keeper is coming over from where they were to be an option, because if all these are closed, the next thing we're going to do is just switch field and give it back to our keeper, who can then switch the field back out this way. Our 10 should be coming over, our 9 should be coming over, the 8 is also kind of coming over here too. So as this center back is engaged, just in this particular scenario, they're going to play it out to the fullback on this side. And again, now what we have here is a situation where the 10, this offensive center midfielder on the right, has to make a decision. Now again, it will depend on if this is closed off. If our 2 gets closed off wide, then the 10 may have to come over to provide a wide option. But if this is open, we want the 2 to be able to take the ball and run with it and to take this space as long as they can. Once they become engaged, then the 2 needs to look centrally, either at the 6, at the 10, or at this beyond option at the 9. And you'll see how that comes together more. So right here, we can see that the 2 is playing the ball out to the 6. All right. And once this happens, everybody starts shifting over. You can see the space is going to start opening up over here. And the ball is switched over to our center back, to the fullback. So I'm just going to play that out the other side now so you guys can see that. Again, this is our starting spot. Okay. This is our starting spot for all our goal kicks. This time the ball will go to the left center back. You can see that the right center back and the right fullback are coming over. The 6 is shading over that way, but not too far. It's just kind of becoming an option. The 1's going to be an option here. The 3 is coming down here. You can see that the offensive center midfielder here is providing an option, and you can see there's a nice little diamond forming here. The center back takes the space. In this particular scenario, the ball is played out wide to our fullback here, who then takes his space. He gets closed off by defenders. Ball is played out back to this time through the 5, and then goes through our 6, good, all the way back around, and we've switched field. As you can see what's happening right there. So now I've added the red defenders. Remember, we're still in our shape, so this is the same starting off point. With our center backs were here, our fullbacks were out wide, this defensive center midfielder is here, our 2 offensive center midfielders are right here, and our strikers up top. So the ball is being played initially from our keeper into our center back. Now I've arranged the defenders in what is our most common, our opponents most commonly play a 3-2-3. So there's 3 up top, 2 in the midfield, and 3 in the back. And I don't have a goalie here, but obviously they have a goalie. So this is the most common press that we face with the 3 up top. So as you can see, the ball's coming over. This 9 from the defenders are coming over to press. So you can see that he's not here yet. So we want the center back to take space. Our fullback on this side is coming down to provide an option. Our 6 is kind of just staying right in here to be an option back. The 1's coming over to also be an option. And the 10 is trying to get into this space to also be an option. And the only way this is going to happen is if all these guys are scanning. They're looking around. They're seeing where is the space. Where can I become an option? So now the fullback is engaged here and has to make a decision. Certainly could go back to the 1, which is probably the best option here, but I want just to keep this the same. He ends up going over to the fullback. Now you can see here the fullback is going to be engaged by the 11. It gets closed off. Immediately he sees an option in the midfield. So this ball will then ends up going to our 6, who then switches field through the other center back, who now gets us out. One more time. So it's just really important that the fullbacks stay wide here to provide an option, it's important that our 6 doesn't get too high. If the 6 gets too high, they take themselves out of the play here, and we have to let it develop. The whole idea is that the ball is being moved to open up pockets of space. So the pockets of space that will be opened up are determined by two things. One, the movement of the defenders. So as you can see here, as these two, the 9 and the 11, have come over and the 10s come here, the pocket of space that's opened up is the 6. Okay? And this is just one example of how we try to move the ball from our keeper through our defensive third into our middle third. This is just one example of how we build. And again, the only way this is going to happen is if our 6 has got his head up and can tell, here's the 9, here's the 10. If I get into this space, that ball will be there. This is the pocket of space that opened up. This is also not a terrible option here to the 10, although he's likely to get immediately pressured. Again, just one more time, go over our shape and how we want to build. So again, we play a 4-3-1. Okay, so especially in building through the back and attacking through our defensive third, the center backs start here. The wing backs are wide and they can go up and down as needed. The 6 has to be very careful about not trailing the play, about not following the play too frequently, and just sitting back and being an option here. And then initially in our build out, these attacking center midfielders need to stay narrow, or you need to stay centrally, and not crowd the fullbacks in the wide areas. And the 9 is supposed to stretch the field. And I want you to pay attention and watch this video over and over again once we start putting you into certain spots, because certain guys will be in certain spots and the same patterns will come over and over again. So it's just important to make sure that you guys understand positionally.